Hello, and welcome to Avant-Garde College Prep Services SAT Test Prep course. In this video, you will learn a little bit more about the introduction to the SAT and an overview of it. You will also learn quite a bit more in regards to we will go through and help you in preparation and the general things to the test. For this presentation, we will go over the structural format of the test and help you better understand a little bit more of it. And maybe how the scoring is done. We'll also go over the PSAT and the National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test for those who will take it as juniors of their October of their junior year. We'll discuss pacing strategies, things to kind of help you, in a general sense, get through the test for all the individual sections. We'll also discuss study tips and academic skills preps, things for which you can learn that kind of help you along with the preparation for this test, but also taking you beyond this test and helping you as you move into your high school studies as well as college studies eventually. We'll talk about score improvement and kind of what goals that we have in mind for you and how you're going to achieve our guarantee of sorts. And then lastly, we'll have course expectations of things for which we want to see out of you as a student who's taking this class, and and helping to get the most out of this course. So the structural format of this test, it's a little bit different, and I don't think anybody here is familiar with the old SAT, which used to have 10 sections. The new SAT, which now has 5 sections of things, has been severely condensed down, and I believe is a much more favorable format than the old one. Things. You have the critical reading, which will usually start off with section 1 with the test each and every time, 65 minutes, 5 passages, and there's a total of 52 questions of things and stuff. So you can see that you have a little bit over a minute per question with the allotted time that's given to you. Then the math is broken up into 2 different sections. You'll see that you have a 25-minute section with calculator, which without calculator the things, which is a little bit shorter on the questions, and we have 20 questions in that section. You have a 55-minute section with the calculator of things, and there's a total of 38 questions in that section. So again, you see you got a little bit more flexibility in regards to the time and what you have in regards to what you may be accustomed to if you ever taken the ACT test. The writing is a 35-minute writing and language test. It's a total of 44 questions. This is the most fastest paced of sections that we have in the SAT, but again, it's quite manageable. And then the essay is optional, as opposed to which the essay used to be in the SAT. Was always required of each student. It is now an optional test that's given as section 5 if you so happen to register and sign up for it to things. And it's given you about double the amount of time that you once had and such. This is a little bit of an overview of the scoring format. You can see the total score ranges from 400 to 1600. You have 2 components that comprise of your total score. The evidence-based reading and writing, so that's the reading and written language section, which is a score of 200 to 800 for which you may receive. The individual sections on the reading you can see is a 10 through 40, or if you extrapolate that, multiply it by 10, it's either going to be 100 through 400. Same thing for the writing and the language, it'll also be from 100 to 400, and so that gives you the composite 200 to 800 that you have here. The math makes up 50% of the score, so those who were extremely adept in math can do quite well on this test in regards to doing exceptionally well in that section. And then again, that is also 200 to 800 of things. Essay, you see that there's 3 different areas for which they score you: reading, analysis, writing, in which you will have 2 graders that will score your essay, and totaling up from each one of these 2 to 8. So the minimum score for which you could have is a 6, and the maximum score which you could have is a 24. I wouldn't worry so much about these cross-test scores or sub-test scores. The subscores can be a little bit helpful in trying to help you narrow down some of the content that you may have some struggles with, but we're going to provide some things to you internally from the test that you're taking with us to kind of help you better understand that part of the content where you may need to direct your efforts to. The PSAT, or the Practice SAT, the National Merit College Scholarship Qualifying Test, you can take this even as 9th graders of things. And then most students take it as 10th and 11th graders. The 11th grade ones are screened for the national scholarships, and which could be a big payday for those who do quite well. It's administered in October of each year, I think, so you're probably accustomed to having to take that during that time of the year. The format of the test is a little bit different. As you can see, the readings is a little bit faster, 60 minutes as opposed to 65. You can see there's about 5 fewer questions there. The math is that you have 70 minutes. You still have them broken up 20 minutes and 50 minutes with the non-calculator and a calculator section. And you can see the questions, the number is reduced by a pretty good margin. Normally you have 58 in the normal SAT, you have 44 here. Writing and language, you can see pretty much remains the same. What you have there. So basically the timing format is about the same. There is no essay that's attached to the PSAT, so there's no concerns of having to really prep for that. The PSAT in regards to content wise is going to essentially be what you study for on the SAT. The math might not be as rigorous, might be dialed down just a notch in regards to the the complexity and the rigorousness of the concepts that are being tested there. Here's some scholarships for those students who are going for that and who are expected to do exceptionally well on this test. National merit, you can see it's about the top half percent, and that's going to be that index scores by state. So it'll be it'll vary from what Texas has and what Oklahoma has, and Washington and Maryland and such. So each state will have their own index score, and is regulated to that things, and it can change ever so slightly year to year. As to what it is. Right now it's approximately 217. It could be, we're seeing a little bit of a trend that's a little bit higher than that, but 217 will certainly give you a nice viable chance in being selected for national merit semifinalists, in which hopefully you'll progress to a finalist from there. National achievement is for individuals who identify as either African American or Black and are the top 1% in their state. National Hispanic is those who identify with Hispanic race and have not just a test score index, but also a GPA index, and they're categorized by regions in the U.S. So we're in the Southwest region, and it's the top 2.5%. So you could choose when you're taking this test to opt in to the Student Search Service. All that really does is allow schools to be able to essentially purchase your name for about 35 cents of things. So if you start receiving materials shortly after this test, it's because the school has identified a set of metrics and for which they want to recruit students, and you fell within those metrics, and they're now being recruited by that school for about 35 cents per name. Other partners, as you can see, is American Indian Graduate Center, Asian Pacific Islander American Scholarship Fund, Hispanic Scholarship Fund, Jack Kent Cooke, and United Negro College Fund. So all these awards are excellent ones for which you may want to potentially pursue if you happen to meet the eligibility requirements, and trying to go after those, which could be quite rewarding financially for you. Pacing strategies. So one of the biggest things and challenges that all students sort of have is, either they're finishing too early, or they're not finishing fast enough, and that's probably one of the biggest things for which you can develop as you're going through and taking practice test after practice test, as you're trying to identify with the pace of the test that you feel comfortable with and operating in. Now, obviously, the goal is to finish the test of things, or at least pick an answer for each question at the very least of things, so that way you know, not leaving any points. You're not able to get any of those points. So one thing you want to keep in mind is that with the SAT, things have changed, that every question is equal. So whether you so choose to guess at it and get it wrong, it doesn't matter. No bygones or the SAT test where you know you were penalized for missed questions of things, and so you know, you certainly you want to make sure that you've answered every question of things, even if you have to guess. Climbing a hill. So with the math, in which you'll find it does progressively get more difficult of things. You know, and so the question number one is definitely going to be much easier in concepts wise as opposed to like question 20 or so on section 3 being the last question of things and stuff. And I do want to preface that again. I should probably say within the math, it kind of ramps up with the multiple choice questions, and then when you have the fill in the blanks or the grid ends, or what we call them, the first one of those are kind of easy, and then it progressively gets more difficult there. So it kind of it starts easy, ramps up, and then you come to the grid ends and it starts easy and then it ramps up and stuff. So you can expect to see that in a test. You want to eliminate as many as you can and choose the best answer. You know, often, you know, within the reading or the written language, or even with quite well with the math, you can, if you know, be able to identify, you know, 2 wrong answers of things, and within that you want to effectively eliminate those, making a chance going from like maybe 25% chance of getting one right to a 50-50 of things, and giving yourself a little bit more of an opportunity to have some of those correctly fall your way. If you don't know, use process of elimination. Just pick, skip, and return of things. Usually we talk about maybe leaving a little bit of a note to the side of it, to your answer choice and your test booklet, showing that you just kind of just guessed of things. You know, you even want to maybe, and I also suggest if you get into a 50-50, maybe make a little note there that another separate note that you were into a 50-50. And what all that should mean is that when if you finish on time or ahead of schedule and you have the opportunity to come back and and review certain problems, those are going to be the most optimal ones to take and turn your attention to, if given the opportunity. The other thing is you want to slow down and take your time. I think many students you know, want to sort of rush through things, want to try to answer every single question, and sometimes that may not happen. You know, it may be best to kind of, you know, make sure that you go through things as well as you can, being as thorough as you can. And if you run out of time, things or strategies that will certainly teach you to help to pick, you know, ones of your best choice, or at the very least guess and things. And so once you're say under the 5-minute mark that's warning that's been given to you, go ahead and start guessing on the remaining ones and coming back and checking some of the other ones that you maybe not had a chance to really review of things and stuff. But the pace will pick up familiarity. So I mean, a lot of times I say this, you know, if you're playing a sport and you're learning a new strategy or new skill or technique of some sorts, you know, if I'm a basketball player shooting free throws or things, you know, as I first start learning how to shoot free throws, yeah, it's going to feel awkward. It's not going to feel, and I have to think about it, and you know, my motion and how much, you know, where I'm gripping the ball and things. But as I keep practicing and practicing, it's basically going to get to the point where someone passes the ball to me, I pick it up and I shoot it. You know, I don't have to think about it as much. It's all committed to muscle memory of things. And so this is quite the same thing. This is really not much different from what you experience in those sorts of things. Same thing if you're playing a song for the first time with an instrument that you're using. You know, the first time you play a new song, it's going to feel awkward. And so the practice will certainly help you to be able to become more familiar with the test, understanding what's being tested, and moving through it at a much more reasonable and faster pace. But in the meantime, we want you to do as well as you can and not sacrificing quality over quantity at this time. Bubbling answers, when you're bubbling in answers, do not go back and forth, meaning that you answer a question and then you go back to your test, to the answer sheet, and you bubble it in. And you go and you answer another question and solving it, and then going back to the, to the sheet. What we strongly suggest is finish the pages that are in front of you, the 2 pages that are in front of you, before you have to flip that page. Go through and bubble in everything that you have in for those 2 pages. And then go and then flip the page, and then, again, work all the problems out on those 2 pages, bubble them, and then flip the page of things. The problem is that you're wasting a lot of time, with your eyes tracking back and forth and things. And what may end up being just a couple minutes is a lot of time in regards to these tests for which you are trying to efficiently use every second and every minute that's been given to you. And then lastly, the cardinal rule is leave no answer behind. That is just something you do not do. Again, if you did not make it as far as the test as what you would like, and you've got to the 5-minute warning of things that's been given to you, go and bubble everything in that's left. And then from there, come back and, maybe you were on question number 46 or something out of 52 for the reading. We'll come back to, after you bubbled everything in, come back to question 46 and try to solve that one. Or cherry pick of things. Maybe you see some questions that certainly look, that you recognize quite easily and understand, like, oh yeah, I know how I can get this one of things. And then tackle those. But at the very least, everything's been bubbled in. If you have to erase something and bubble in a new answer, you don't have to worry about time running out and being penalized or disqualified because you're trying to bubble in answers after time's been called. So these are some things which I'm going to be telling you about how to help you in being more efficient and smarter with the way in which you prepare for this test, and really anything in which you're having to learn academically and stuff. And so one of the things that I'm a big advocate for, and which I preach a lot about, is deliberate practice, and being able to do things where you're just not doing it for the sake of doing it, but you're doing it with an objective in mind, and you're trying to accomplish something with the time that you're setting aside. Because face it, every single one of us is busy. I'm busy, you're busy. I know that as hardworking students, you've got a lot of things for which are going on outside of your lives, and test prep is honestly not probably the most exciting thing for you. And so when you choose to spend some time doing it, whether it's 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 2 hours, you want to make sure that you're giving it your very best effort, and at the end of that time, however long that may be, you are continuing to improve things. And so deliberate practice requires that one identify certain sharply defined elements of performance that need to be improved, and then work intently on them. And that's the key thing, is sharply defined elements, okay, and work intently on them of things. And so what you can see through this is illustrated in this. I mean, yeah, you can put more time in anything that you're trying to do, but is your skill level really going to go up? Are you really getting better? It's like those students who open up a textbook and read and read and read. Well, and then you're at the end of the time and read a chapter and you're like, what did I learn? And you're thinking, oh, I don't know what I learned. I think so. You're not giving yourself a good effort to learn the information of things. So the time and energy we put in, we do want to be deliberate in it. And you can see is how deliberate practice, you should see incremental gains that you continue to achieve time and time and time again. And you can do this with the SAT test. It is and your ability to go and do that. You can continue to improve over and over again, and really the only limitation that you have on yourself for this test is you, and things is what I always say to students. So again, deliberate practice is high repetition. It is the most important difference between deliberate practice of task performing and the task for real when it counts, of things being able to do that. And also feedback is essential. Practice without feedback is like bowling through a curtain that hangs down to knee level of things. So if you can't necessarily see where that ball is, on the little marks that are on the lane or anything like that, or you can't see if it's curving, or maybe you're starting off a little bit and it's too far to the right or left of things, then how are you expect to know where you're going to adjust and throw the ball at the next time you're going down the lane with it to things. And so what we try to do here is give you as much data for which you can absorb and digest, and probably for many people maybe a little bit too much, but we're here to help you to understand that data and to helping you along and digesting it and where you may want to sort of direct your efforts of things. So don't hesitate in asking us. The other thing is it isn't much fun. Deliberate practice is not inherently enjoyable with things. If it was, then everyone would be doing it. And then it wouldn't necessarily be that special, would it? Of things. Being able to accomplish the things that necessarily a lot of people can't nearly do, well, it takes hard work and practice in doing that. But again, time doesn't necessarily equate to better results. It's how you so choose to utilize that time, and the efficiency and the methods for which you're using will help you to achieve and to obtain those sorts of goals. And then lastly, it's highly demanding mentally. Deliberate practice above all an effort of focus and concentration of things. I think this quote does quite well to sum it up. Concentrate all your thoughts upon the work at hand. The sun's rays do not burn until brought to a focus of things. And then for some people, this is a challenge of things where they're spending 20 minutes, 30 minutes of their time, and then afterwards their mind starts to wander, or they're curious about what's going on their phone, or there's other things that might be serving as distractions that are surrounding them with things. And so building up stamina in a way for which you can work hard and intentionally at something takes time, and some are better than others. And if you're one of those individuals who's kind of on the shorter end of 20, 30 minutes, well, don't practice at that level for the start. And then make a goal like, I'm really going to try to go for 30 to 45 minutes today or something. Things. And making sure that you have mapped out what you're going to do, what you're going to study, what you're going to review during that time, so that you are busy from task to task. You understand that I'm going to do this first, and this second, and this third, and then you have no time to deviate from that plan, and helps you to stay on point and focus, and helping you to keep on task for as long as you can. Things, and then gradually build up your stamina to where you can you can go for a much longer time, because essentially the test itself is a little bit over 4 hours if you're taking without the essay, and it's closer to 5 hours with the essay of things. So naturally you're going to have to build up your stamina to be able to do exceptionally well on this test. One of the things that students come across and that they find themselves is they are making careless errors of things, and this is not uncommon by any means, and usually most students can kind of go through and count a handful of errors for which they just made a very simple, silly mistake, and it's preventing them from really achieving the highest score for which they're most capable of doing. It comes from being unfamiliar with the content, so going into uncharted waters per se, or something like that. You just really don't understand what you're looking at or what you're having to go through, and so that can be challenging. And so one thing is trying with us is help you understand the format of this test and what you're exactly going to be working with. The other thing is some students are maneuvering way too fast with things, and they're trying to make it somewhat of a boat race, and finishing and things, and then they finish with way too much time left, whether it's 5-10 minutes left, and then they're just allowing things for not going back and looking and reviewing the task. But what I always would say is, if you're in that position, you need to slow down. You need to slow down, maybe read some of the things a second time, especially in the math questions, reading that last sentence and understanding what they're looking for, maybe marking up things a bit more within your text passage, within your reading, or within the math, and working things out and writing the problems out more and using less calculator, but trying to find ways to slow down and do that instead. Test is simple ideas, tasks, and concepts of things. It's helping to take a methodical and thorough approach to these concepts that the SAT is looking at. It's wanting to understand how well you read and comprehend. How well do you know how to utilize and the English grammar language of sorts? And then how well within the math do you know pre-algebra, algebra, algebra 2, and some geometry and a little bit of trig and things of that nature and stuff. And how can you potentially understand and know those sorts of concepts? And then lastly, to kind of, in our ability to help you eliminate your careless mistake is understand what's being tested. And that's what we talked about, understanding the format of things. And then lastly, active practice, meaning that you're aware of your common mistakes, um, in which you're trying to catch yourself and taking specific actions that will help to mitigate and to hopefully eliminate those sorts of errors. Other things is we're going to get the student score report after each test that you take. It's going to have your overall scores, it's going to have your section raw scores, again, your evidence-based reading and writing score, it's going to have your math score, and then individual problem type scores. So one thing that we've done, which is really unique here at Avant-Garde, is that we've gone through and have labeled every single problem for which each test that you will take with this, and it matches up to our curriculum. And so if you're having some trouble with a certain type of reading problem, you can then understand that type of reading problem, then go back into the reading curriculum for which we created, and then being able to see as that problem type and hope and work on understanding that in more detail, and then with the recognition of it that maybe you understand that you're having problems with these specific types of these reading questions. And then hopefully mentally as you're going through it and you encounter that problem, you then thus slow down, and with slowing down, knowing you might want to take a little bit more time with that type of question. The other thing is post-test review. You want to allocate time for each section, so the reading, the written language, the math, and creating a manageable schedule that allows you to go through and to review that material. You know, obviously not every student's the same. You know, within that, there might be some sections for which you're doing exceptionally well with, some that you're struggling with, and of course you want to kind of coordinate that appropriately for what how you're doing within those individual sections. You don't want to study your missed answers and locate why you got them wrong. If it's math, maybe it's a procedural thing, maybe it's a concept which you don't necessarily understand well enough, you need to continue to review. Some things, maybe if it's in the reading of some sorts, understanding exactly where the right answer came within the text of the passage of things, because as that how that works, you have to find the answer somewhere within the text. Also, wrong answer choices and understanding why certain answers are wrong can be extremely beneficial, especially within the reading and the writing areas, and knowing why something's right, but also knowing why it's wrong. Reading and writing section, you want to try to operate in a timed environment. Don't sacrifice the strategies for which we're going to be teaching you. And so as you're going back and reviewing, and as you're going through homework and practicing the things, you really want to work on building the strategies and the procedures of things. So again, that stuff will pick up as you become more comfortable with the material and that you understand the procedures. Same thing going back with me shooting my free throw. At first, I'm going to be a little bit slower with it. The things. It's going to take me a little bit longer to go through those steps, but as I practice more and more, the pace and the speed of it's going to get faster. And then lastly, with the math, start with the areas that you're close to mastering, then build from there. So again, if you're doing exceptionally well and you're answering one part of the material like 75–80%, you have a very strong foundation of knowledge in that area. So you want to go and try to completely master that area and seeing why you're getting it wrong, because you should hopefully be able to understand it. And then looking back and peeling back and say, okay, what areas am I really struggling with the things? And then once you've looked at those areas that you're mastered, going back and look at the areas that you're struggling with, and then start trying to build those areas up and things and stuff. Some other academic skills, things that you can take along with you as you move into classes outside of this course and any other course you may take in the future is take solid notes. The more you write, the more you learn. And so often when I see students who are in our class, or even when I taught college classes of things, students who would sit there and would listen the whole time, and then they wouldn't write a thing down. And they're completely depending upon their memory alone to know everything that you're supposed to know. and stuff. Um, but so try to get in the habit of writing things down, whether it's underlining, circling things, especially within math, copying down the solutions that we're going over of things. Do not depend on your memory. There is a strong correlation between writing on the test and higher test scores. I've seen it time and time again where I can pick up a student's test, see how much writing is on it, and understand whether they're doing probably pretty well on this test or they're struggling at things. If you're one of those individuals who doesn't really write anything, you really need to make a strong, forced habit of writing stuff as well as you can. And then what that does is it shows that you're actively engaging the material and thinking about it. And you're probably doing it in a way which is a little bit more slower than you just glancing and reading over the material, which is kind of going through your head and not really processing it. The other thing that I'd like to say is review your lecture notes within 24 hours. Going back through and trying to help move things from the short-term memory into long-term. Just briefly going over this, such thing called the forgetting curve and stuff. And so what you can see is the retention of the material for which you have regarding it. So say you attend day one lecture of our test prep, and so the first day you learned it, and here's 100% of that. After 3 days, if you've not looked at that material over 3 days, well, you're pretty much only going to remember about 50% of that material. And what that's going to be is probably the bulk concepts, some of the main ideas of things, but you're going to forget all those smaller, intricate steps, the nuances of things that are being taught. And guess what? What's most likely being tested and what's helpful for you to build on material after material is the smaller details for what you learn. So going back, reviewing the material, and consistently looking at it will help you to retain that information, especially things that are brand new to you or things that are uncomfortable in regards to that. Make sure that you're going through and review it in a very timely manner. Lastly, study tips for this and additional ones: complete the homework ASAP. Looking at it, and don't delay on your time in trying to complete those assignments. Refer to the lecture notes to help you if needed. Use this opportunity to practice your strategies. The other thing is post-test analysis and analyzing your student score report. Understand your strengths and weaknesses. Review your missed problems after each practice test and things. And I suggest this whether this is this test prep course or any test or any class that you're taking. The things. If you're not going back and you're not thoroughly understanding why you miss things, then you're really doing a disservice to yourself and not helping yourself out as well as you can for that. So other study tips and resources we'll have: math, receive solutions for each test of things. Regards to that, there'll be a diagnosis of each problem, so each problem will be labeled for you. Same thing with reading and written language. Each one of those will be labeled for you, and you will have answer explanations for those tests being given out. College Board online, they also have practice test keys and answer explanations for many of our tests that we'll be administering. AGP, our math solutions, so each will be giving you our own handwritten solutions for which you can then use to help you understand how we've approached things and what option, how you may want to help you better understand. And then lastly, the daily practice for the new SAT app. So you may want to choose to download that. They have the question of the day. They can also track your progress of things. It's a really good resourceful tool. 140-point guarantee. The blueprint that we'll have for the math, we're looking something between 60 to 90 points. It'll be the equivalent to about an 8 to 11 question improvement over the 2 sections of things. So this is usually the math is easiest area to pick up points. It's not uncommon for students to get 100, 110, 120 points in this area of things. Reading and written language is a little bit more challenging, especially in the reading section. If your reading comprehension and speed is down a little bit, it can be a little bit more challenging to pick that up and stuff. But we're expecting to see 30, 40 points or 60 to 80 points in this area overall within the reading and written language, and that's equivalent to about a 5 to 7 question improvement over each section. And so score improvement, you may have gotten a 29 correct on your math out of 58 questions, I'm sorry, and you scored a 540. Our goal, try to get you maybe, this is a 70-point improvement, 37 correct, is equals 610 things. And this is really going to come from a couple different ways. Increasing your knowledge, recognition of the problems type. So when you look at a problem, I'm able to diagnose a problem within a matter of seconds just from examining it and reviewing it, scanning it. I know exactly what we're testing. And that's something for which we're going to work on with you all, is understanding exactly what you're working with and being able to move in at a faster rate, and diagnosing and solving the problem. The other thing is content knowledge and skills mastery. So building up your knowledge and your skills that are being exactly tested here on the test. The other thing is repetition. Just through pure repetition and practice, giving you an opportunity to a chance to become more comfortable and get faster with things, thus allowing you to get to more questions. Here, the 29 correct, you maybe only got to, say, 25 of those questions that you answered correctly. Maybe you guessed on 4 or something of things. And so now as you've gone through test prep, you're now maybe answering, say, 34, 35 correctly, that you touched problems that you were able to adequately look at, review, and answer. And then maybe you guessed on a couple and got those right, and which brought you up to 37. So that's our goal and how we're going to try to get there. Being able to process of elimination and guessing just as well as, maybe you've gotten a little bit stronger and better in that area and are able to guess at a more intelligent way in choosing answers if you're not 100% certain. So score improvement, how many hours? A lot of students say, and this is kind of, if you go around, you look and such, it can be pretty challenging to pick up your score. And that's why so many students do a test prep class, because it forces you to put this kind of hours into it, the things. But, you got to think about how you're trying to teach yourself either new content, you're trying to reshape old habits and bad ones and form new good habits of things. You're trying to familiarize yourself with a test for which you really haven't seen that often in things, and trying to get comfortable with it, things. And so it can take a bit of time to do that. And that's really with anything, not whether it's test prep, whether it's your math courses or your reading. It can take a while to significantly lift up your skills and enhance them in a very measurable way. So how you're going to get that through us and things is you're going to go through 3 practice tests. It'll be about 15 hours of these practice tests that you would have actual opportunity to review and receive instruction and to get better with. The class lecture will be about 28 hours. Homework over the course of all 8 lectures should be about 20 hours of homework that you will have for you to do. You'll have 2 review sessions at 2 hours each, so that gives you 4 hours. And then you should be studying and doing individual review on your own, especially in regards to after you complete this homework and getting geared up for these practice tests. Hopefully you're using the class lecture notes. Hopefully you're using the homework, the things, your previous practice tests that you're studying, that you're reviewing on your own. So you're going to pick up the additional block of time and get you to about over 80 hours to significantly get up, which you can see about 140 to 200 points in that area. So lastly, we'll go through some expectations that we have for you as you're going to be a part of this class. We want you to come to a class of positive, fun, and ready to learn attitude. We understand that test prep, I get it, it's maybe not the most exciting thing. I love taking tests, but not everyone else is in that position. But come ready to learn. If you're not coming with that sort of attitude, then you're really doing yourself a disservice and those that are around you. Cell phones will be put away and not be a distraction during instruction time. So as we're giving and delivering instruction, as we're taking tests of things, please cut your phones off, put them away where they're out of sight and that they're not an issue, and don't pull them out when you're done with certain things, especially during test time and other people are still taking a test, as that can be a distraction to them as well. So let's please respect that. Complete all your homework assignments. It's something for which we strongly encourage to give you the opportunity to practice, to build up skills, build up your knowledge of things. Same thing if I'm trying to learn a new tennis stroke of some sorts and get better. If I'm not practicing it, I'm not repping it, then I'm not going to get better with the skill itself. Same thing here. There's nothing wrong with that, or nothing different with that. Lastly, you're going to be given some links for Google Forms, which are going to be in your course syllabus, which you could go through and insert your homework, and that's one for us to check and see, one, that you're doing it, but two, that we can understand and see your progress of things, and if we see you're still struggling, we might be able to intervene and try to better see what's going on there. Expectations, review each practice test and ask for help when additional guidance is needed. So again, we're going to be giving you lots of data, lots of information of things. I expect that you are going through your test, reviewing them, reviewing your coinciding and going back into your lectures and your notes of things. And if you're kind of spinning your wheels, you're not understanding exactly what you need to do, please ask for help, because you're only hurting yourself, and an expectation and onus is on you to come to us and let us know that you are needing a bit additional help. Be alert and prepared for each practice test. So with each practice test that we take, treat it like a real game of some sorts, like a real test. You're coming and already spending 4 or 5 hours, and you need to come and give your best effort, or essentially you're just wasting your time. And again, given how much time and energy and what you're putting into this, we certainly want your best effort. You want your best effort, and we want to be able to rep things as well as we can for each time that you're having to take part in this. So that's the conclusion of our presentation for the SAT overview and introduction for the class. Thank you so much, and we are certainly looking forward to having you a part of the class and achieving the sort of results that you desire and that you want to achieve for your college prep efforts. Thank you, and good luck.